attacks in what the French government called coordinated malicious acts north and west of Paris, taking out huge swathes of the network.
The Summer Olympics are currently taking place in Paris. Did you know about that? Probably not. Your parents might have mentioned it to you, but honestly, I think we're all just too obsessed with internet drama at the minute to take a step back and realize that there are people currently outside right now touching grass by doing incredible things and getting bronze, silver, and gold medals. Like, I haven't been following the Olympics that much, and even I've seen people in the shooting competition, you know, the one where they've got like the lens on and it looks like this weird prescription glasses, like it's from like a Clockwork Orange or something. And then there's that one image going around as well of that one person that was like doing a shot with a rifle and their gyat is sticking out. Holy. Now, because it's the Summer Olympics, there are 48 sports. Now, I could easily read out all these sports to make the video as long as possible, but I'd probably mispronounce them. I'd have a bit of a, you know, a Metro's booming track moment. So I'm just going to show you all of them on screen. Now, to preface, I don't think there has been a single Olympic Games in human history where something hasn't gone wrong. A great example is years ago, Internet Historian did an entire video compiling what happened at a lot of Olympic Games that went wrong. For example, the fire could have randomly gone out. You know, this fire that is never meant to extinguish to show like the power the Olympic Games has at uniting people? Yeah, it goes out. And then some random security guard had to like start it with a Zippo lighter. And I think this Olympic Games could be one of the most divisive because even though it is nowhere near to actually being finished, so many things have happened. Now, let's begin with the opening ceremony. Again, these can really be hit or miss. Again, I remember an Internet Historian's video. He actually covered how in one of the Olympic Games, there were a bunch of birds that were sat in the bowl that was about to be set on fire, and they didn't care. They just set the thing on fire anyway, killing all those birds. But in this year's Olympic Games, before the gates even opened, there was an arson attack. Basically, a bunch of people attacked specific rail lines, putting the trains out of commission on purpose to stop people, hundreds of thousands of people, from being able to attend the Olympic Games.
Just hours before the opening ceremony, there was chaos on the rail network in and around Paris.
Now, these were attacks on the north, west, and east in hopes of basically sabotaging the Olympics and less people turn up.
4 attacks in what the French government called coordinated malicious acts targeted links to the east, north and west of Paris, taking out huge swathes of the network.
Now, to put that in comparison, there were over 800,000 people that were actually going to attend the Olympic Games, and they were using rail transport to get to Paris. You might have noticed that I didn't mention the South Rail. They were planning to hit that as well, but police kind of realized, wait, they hit the north, they hit the east, they hit the west. Surely now they hit the south, and they actually managed to, you know, intercept them before they could damage that rail line. Well, you know what? Let's put that past us. I'm sure people that couldn't attend, they could probably just watch it from home on their TV. So, you know, that's fine. So roll around onto Monday. And what do we have for the opening? We have Lady Gaga.
Oh my goodness, Slay.
Wow, that's great. The clip is only 5 minutes, and she's probably paid around $200,000 for that. But you know what? That's great. She's gonna be in the new Joker film, right? To be fair, though, in her credit, like, she sung that entire performance in French. I'm not sure if she's actually naturally French speaking, or she might have learned to speak French just for this song. But as Queso would say, that is a slay.
Slay!
Now, the opening ceremony itself, the entirety, it was very, very controversial, to say the least. The opening ceremony itself was just generally really disappointing. Not in the sense of like politics or anything like that, but just in like presentation. I mean, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'll play an example of a scene from the opening ceremony for the Paris 2024 Olympics. And then in comparison, I'll show you the Beijing 2008 Olympics.
Later came the artistic segments involving the philosophers. One would think it was all mechanically operated, but it turns out it was human operated, to the delight of the people in the stadium.
Now, the opening ceremony for the Paris Games was actually so hated on by pretty much everyone, because even people that did support it were like, this is ass. You bought like 3 fireworks and a water fountain. This sucks. And they basically ended up taking down the video off YouTube. Oh, by the way, what is the worst thing that you could ever do in the entirety of the Olympic Games? When you introduce the countries, because there's a lot of tensions, you named the wrong country. So when the South Korean team managed to stroll in, they were officially announced as the North Korean team. I wish this was a bit, but it really wasn't.
There is no way. The Olympic organizers have just had to issue a deep apology after South Korea were introduced as North Korea in the opening ceremony in both French and English. The South Korean Sports Ministry said that it planned to lodge a strong complaint with France on a government level over the embarrassing mistake.
And you know how like some of these angles and videos people are taking that paid to get a spot behind the barriers, how it just looks like ass? There were people that had amazing views of the games, but they had that from their own home, out the window. They did not need to pay any extra to get that angle. Now, moving on to the actual athletes, you would think, okay, you know, we've got all these people from all across the world. We need to treat them right, because if they're not on, you know, the right diet, if they're not getting their 8 hours of sleep every night on the day where they're performing, they could be inadequate. And that could be bad, because then they might actually sue us and blame us. There's many videos floating around on YouTube that you might have seen where they're basically summarizing and saying no country wants to host the Olympic Games, because when you end up hosting it, you incur a massive amount of debt in your country because of all the, you know, the setup, the performance, the opening ceremony, transportation. It is an insane amount of money. Like, no country is happy. Like, maybe publicly they get to like feel like they can flex on other countries, but behind the scenes, everyone is stressed. So one of the first things that came out about the athletes that were staying in Paris is obviously the heat. It gets quite hot in Paris, and there were basically hundreds, if not thousands, of athletes that couldn't even cool their rooms properly, which doesn't sound that bad. You know, it's like, oh, it's a little bit hot in here, guys. I can't really sleep that well. But like, imagine like it's the night's sleep you're trying to get before the day you perform. You want to be on peak, and that just can't happen if you're in this like tiny little closet room that's like 35 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that translates to in Fahrenheit, by the way. Probably 2.9 trillion negative 10. I don't know. People also looked into the bed situation. The bed situation is insane, which hopefully I can title the video that. It was a bunch of athletes that were sleeping on basically makeshift beds made out of cardboard.
The Olympic Village is going viral, and not in a good way. Athletes are having a tough time with a food shortage and cardboard beds provided by the Olympics. One powerlifter posted a video showing how his bed was more like a chair. To top it off, France opted for an environmentally friendly cooling solution instead of air conditioning, leaving the rooms uncomfortably hot. As a result, teams brought their own AC units.
You would think if you're like an Olympic athlete, you'd be able to, you know, get some like, you know the bed that like Drake sleeps on that's apparently estimated to be like $250,000? You think it'd be like, you know, something like that, like Egyptian cotton, but no, they're just sleeping on like UNICEF cardboard bed. Minecraft Steve probably has a better bed to sleep in. One thing I like about that TikTok as well, that's Tom Daley, who's basically like one of the most famous Olympic swimmers in the UK. He's been very openly gay for a long time. And at the very end, the top comments are just like, bro assumed position. The muscle memory kicked in. Okay, the bed situation is insane. What about the food? Obviously, you know, as an Olympic athlete, you need to get a lot of food in you to perform on the day, especially protein. You need to protein max. So that's the more expensive stuff, right? Like carbs, usually very cheap. Potatoes, fries, pasta. But protein is where you get, you know, the muscle, the gains. That's the important stuff, and usually is more expensive. Were they satisfied? No. Not at all. It was literally a bit. They were running out of protein, so basically everyone was just eating like greens and pasta.
Team GB are taking packed lunches to their hotels and flying in a chef as Paris 2024 runs low on high-protein chicken and eggs. Team GB have been forced to fly out their own cook after shortages led to rationing of high-protein items and service of uncooked meat.
Now, I can see a lot of people in the comments section pointing out, why would you fly out a chef from the UK when the UK is known for some of the most garbage slop food imaginable? Hey, Pyro, look up that video where they're serving jellied eels in a cafe in London.
The eel, for me, I loved it. I gave it to my Egyptian friend, and, well, you judge this reaction.
Might be white people food. It's white people food.
But it seems that US basketball players actually seem to do the same thing, and, you know, they opened it for whoever.
The USA basketball team, consisting of multi-millionaire players, took one look at the Olympic Village rooms and decided it wasn't up to their standards. They collectively spent $15 million to secure luxury hotel and food options for every player and coach.
I think the worst thing is as well, it's like being an athlete, right? You are training for years and years. And if you do one single slip up on the day, you're disqualified and someone else is going to beat you. So you need adequate sleep. You need adequate food on the day. But like, I'm looking at footage of the hotels they're staying in and the cardboard beds. It is like, it's like a friend's sleepover or like a holiday at Butlins.
You like it?
And the worst thing is, this is probably the first time that a lot of these athletes are competing, you know, and they travel across the world, they're ready to perform, and then it's like, oh, hooray,
Yay! I get school dinners and a cardboard bed. Yippee!
Now, if you haven't heard, there has been a huge problem at the minute with the swimmers because a lot of the swimmers were meant to swim in the Paris River. And if you've seen the Paris River, it's probably the only river in Europe that is somehow more dirty than the Thames. I want you to look at that French water and you tell me that that's clean. Like, you can argue and cope and say, oh, there's just a bit of silt at the bottom, a bit of frilt, a bit of silt. No, it's disgusting. It looks like one of the sewers you'd be in Half-Life 2, and if you touch the water, it'd damage you. Also, keep in mind that none of this water has been, like, treated or chlorinated at all. Now, you have had, like, certain political members of Paris, you know, get into the water and, you know, swim around to make sure that it's safe. Keep in mind, none of them are, like, dunking their heads under the water, specifically.
Ahead of the games, this was the Paris mayor trying to prove the Seine is safe, after pouring in more than £1 billion to upgrade sewage systems.
But this does remind me of the scenario where an Indian politician scooped up some of the local running water in a river to prove it was clean, and then hours later, he was hospitalized. Also, I like this article. Olympic athlete vomits on live TV after being made to swim in polluted river at Paris Games. He vomited 10 times after the grueling race. Now, surprisingly, the Olympic Games does consider surfing an Olympic sport. I mean, you know, that's fine. I think it's something very hard to master. There are people coping saying, why isn't bowling an Olympic sport? And he had the unfortunate pleasure of his trunks falling off and mooning everyone on national TV. And the worst thing is as well, the people that are like narrating the entire thing, they could have just easily said, oh, he had a little slip up or something, but they just go dead silent. And because of their silence, you focus on it even more.
Surfing games, he put up an incredible performance in Puerto Rico.
Now, one thing I found really interesting during the event is the shooting. You know, someone stands there with a pistol. They basically try to, like, Red Dead Redemption Deadeye a target, get a bullseye. And a lot of people, they wear very special eyewear, you know, like blocking out one part of the eye, wearing a skin-tight suit so they can, like, you know, it restricts their movement. Please wear more of that. But there was, like, a Turkish guy that turned up. He had no protective eyewear at all, nothing to enhance. He just had, like, normal prescription glasses, basically strolled up in a t-shirt, and he still managed to basically full-on get a bullseye. By the way, he got a silver medal, and you could say, oh, he didn't win gold, unlucky. But, like, with no peripherals at all, that is wholly based. Bro even has, like, his hand in his pocket as well when doing it. Also, for a side-by-side comparison, look at this guy from Serbia and how he's got, like, all the protective earwear, the eyewear to, like, maximize his, like, optics or whatever. But, you know, like, Turkish dad just turns up, does it, and gets a bullseye. So the Olympic Games are still ongoing. If there's, like, any more big happenings, I'm definitely going to talk about them. But I did want to end the video with a tweet that I found captioned, finally, Olympic level autism.
Played some decent stuff at times today, did JT. There's more and more thought going into these, aren't there?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. What Olympic sport could I do? Chess, if they brought it in. I got like a trophy from chess when I was like 12 years old. I can probably still play the game. Probably.